Winter time is one of the most difficult times in the farming calendar. It's also the time when the dreaded liver fluke becomes apparent. And today, Farming Connect is holding an awareness day on the disease at Rhydyr Efail Farm, Lledrod, Tregaron.
Ar ôl blwyddyn fridio llynedd, blwyddyn erchill, mae sawl un o ffermwyr yr ardal wedi syffro colledion aruthrol. So, noswaith i godi ymwybodaeth yw heno. Ni'n mynd i sôn am dosio defyd i'r maint iawn. Ni'n mynd i rhedeg rhai defyd trwy'r handling facilities yma yn Rhydyr Efail. A ni hefyd yn mynd i, mae John Richards o Hybu Ci Cymru yn mynd i gyfro dewis wyn a cael wyn iawn i'r lladddy. Mae da ni adnoddau arbennig trwy Cyswllt Ffermio. Mae 80% i gael Whole Health Plan. So, rhywun sydd yn dioddau a rhyw problems i wneud â iechyd anifeiliaid ar y fferm. Gallen nhw hawlio 80% yn ôl drwy fod yn members o Cyswllt Ffermio.
Today's speaker is Leslie Stubbings.
I think this year the main advice has got to be to not let their guard down. Last year I think everyone's aware it was probably the worst year that any of us can remember. We've just had a nice dry spell over the summer and it would be tempting to think that this year is going to be okay. But you don't have to think much further back to realise we had that awful spring. We had lots and lots of liver fluke that overwintered. We had problems early on in the summer and unfortunately the dry period we've had won't have done enough to alleviate much of the problem, so they've really got to keep on their guard again this year. At this time of year there aren't any symptoms. Usually the first thing you see is dead sheep, unfortunately, with acute liver fluke disease, because the animals are out grazing. If there's a lot of fluke out there, they're taking in a lot of baby fluke effectively, and they go into the gut, and it's the migration of those to the liver that does all the damage, and there's no warning of that. You just literally get the first few dead sheep. So what I would say to people now is, think about how it was last winter. Are you at risk? Where are your risk pastures? And if you're selling some lambs dead weight, just go and get some decent feedback from the abattoir. Are they seeing liver damage in those lambs? Are they seeing any liver fluke? Just to give you a bit of a heads up. A bit further down the line, when we start to get some adult flukes, you can look for eggs in the dung, but that takes quite a while. We're talking well into the autumn. The vets can also take some blood samples, so they can look at blood chemistry and they can look at antibodies in the blood. And there's a new test now which is on the way, which is partially commercially available, which we call a copper antigen test, which looks for antibodies in the dung. And in theory we should be able to find those sooner than we can find eggs, which might just give us a little bit more of a head start against them. But that's early days for that one. Obviously, we're very limited in terms of the number of products that we've got to deal with liver fluke. And there's one product which has been the gold standard, triclobendazole, big mouthful. But that has been used widely because it is the only one that will kill these very immature fluke. So it'll take them down to about 2 days of age. And unfortunately, we're developing some resistance problems to that now. But I think it's being overplayed, because there are definitely some farms with resistance, but a lot of people assumed that because they needed to treat more often last winter, their normal regime wasn't working, they were finding they were back in trouble after a month even, they assumed that was a breakdown of the product, and actually what it was reinfection. Because these products, you kill the fluke in them on that day, if you turn them back out to fluky pasture, they'll pick another dose up, and then you've got the problem. So they really do need to talk to their vet and test for resistance. We don't want them all moving away from that gold standard product unless they have to. The main messages for tonight are, don't let your guard down. Just because we've had a reasonable-ish summer and you've got good silage in the barn for a change, liver fluke's still out there, don't get caught out. Don't assume that old treatment strategies is going to work, you've got to revisit that, and don't assume you've got resistance. Get it tested and plan your treatments and the products that you're going to use according to what they're capable of doing.
Liver fluke not only affects the animals, but can affect heavily on the farm business.
Wel, un o'r symptomau gyntaf sydd y trwyddo yw'r dafad yn mynd i. Dafad yn cwmpo tu ôl y rest yn y ddiadell a colli bach o bwysau. Dyn ni gyd yn gwybod y symptomau yn fwyaf, amser maen nhw'n dod allan yr hen botol John, so mae bach o fluid gyda nhw dan i gen hwnna. Ond tueddu i fod, mae fe wedi cyrraedd stage go wael yn y ddafad erbyn ni. Wedyn mae'n bwysig i trio dal cyn bod y cyrraedd yna. Mae'r lladdau yn gallu rhoi adborth i chi ar o'r rafi amser mae'n dod nôl i gweud os mae Llyngyr y iau wedi bod arno de. A wedyn mae hwn yn rhywbeth bwysig iawn i defnyddio. Mae rhaid cofio, na beth mae'n dangos yw bod yna damage wedi bod i'r rafi ar hw adeg yn ystod bywyd yr ôn. Dwi wedi yn meddwl yn gyniatawol bod Llyngyr y iau ar yr ôn ar y pryd, ond mae rhywbeth i bod yn wyliadwrus o hefyd gallwch chi defnyddio'r adborth yma gyda'r milfeddyg i penderfynu o oes eisiau treto rwy'n dde. Mae'r defed sydd gyda ni gyd o'r un oedran a maen nhw edrych rownd yr un pwysau. Oedd yr un trwma i'r un sgafna, oedd tua 10 kg o waniaeth ni. Wedyn mae hwnna'n pwysig iawn amser ni edrych arno. Dylen ni wastod, os ni gallu, roi'r defed mewn i grwpau o'r un pwysau, a wedyn ni doso i'r un pwysau fwyadau.
A gymryd o bobl o bob oedran, mae'n neis gweld y bobl ifanc yn troi lan. A maen nhw gyd, wel, mi'n gweithio bod nhw gyd wedi dysgu rhywbeth, maen nhw yma i ddysgu rhywbeth, a mae lot o waith dysgu gyda ni gyd yn byd am meddyddiaeth nawr.
Faint o newid wyt ti wedi gweld dros y blynydde?
Tra bod fi wedi bod wrth y job yma rhyw 10 mlynedd, y 5 mlynedd cyntaf, unwaith y flwyddyn o dos ar gyfer ffliwc, a oedd hynny amser dolyg, amser sganio, a pawb yn hapus, oedd y defyd wedi cael y ffliwc a nhw'n hapus. Mae wedi mynd nawr, a digon o bobl yn gwneud y dair gwaith y flwyddyn, a wy'n mynd gwybod hynny ddigon fel mae pethau'n edrych ar y foment. Mae'n
jyst diddorol gweld yr holl ficurau, a wel i wedi gwir, gweld faint mor wael yw problem ffliwc. Dim jyst yn yr ardal hyn, dim jyst yng Nghymru, ond yn gros yr Deyrnas Unedig i gyd. Fel o Leslie Stubbins yn gweud hyn, o falle bod angen edrych mwy ar beth i ni'n neud gytre ag yn y blaen, a gobeithio yn y dyfodol gallwn ni neud na mwyn lleihau faint o beth ni'n defnyddio, mwyn bod dim resistance yn dod ar y ffarm wedyn.
Chi'n mynd i addasu'r ffordd i chi'n ffermio o gynyniad i heno?
Fi'n credu bod di'n goffod wastad dysgu i wella bob dydd yn nhw. Mae wastad challenges yn dod lan erbyn i bob dydd. So mae rhaid i keep an open mind.
Ni ddim yn pwyso, just meddwl beth ni'n meddwl byddai'r pwysau, ond falle byddai well i fi wneud yn siŵr beth yw'r pwysau gyntaf.
Erig, chydig gwahodd y noswaith yma i'r ffarm. Chi'n hapus gyda siwm pethau wedi mynd?
O'n hapus iawn. Mae tipyn o glowd wedi troi mas a fi'n falch iawn o hynny a mae'r noswaith wedi bod yn eitha dymunol. A hefyd, gobeithio bod ni wedi dysgu tyfa bach o beth oedd Leslie Stubbins yn gweud, oedd eitha diddorol, achos mae ffliwc yn tipyn o broblem mewn wahanol ardaloedd yn llefydd glib o bethau. A, wel, mae'r noswaith yn ifanc, fi'n gweithio gadw ni fynd am bach to.